Small, mighty, and full-featured. These 3 tube amps pack features of amps twice their size. If you want to look inside the lunchbox, then join me for this episode of I Don't Have a Band, right now. Hey there, I'm Dan, the self-proclaimed Lonely Rocker. Thanks for joining me for this episode of I Don't Have a Band. Standing behind this wall of amplifiers can mean only one thing. Yep, I'm doing another collaboration with my good friends down at Long and McQuade and continuing our series for the love of gear. We're taking a look at Lunchbox amps in this video. These amps have been provided courtesy of Long McQuade, so if you have any questions or need more information, please visit long-mcquade.com or drop into your local Long McQuade. Justin down at the downtown Toronto Bloor store handpicked these 3 amplifiers. Now, there's one theme between the 3. They all have a DI option, so if you're looking for a good tube amp for recording, these are a great solution because you don't need your cabs. You can just go straight into your DAW and get recording. Obviously, if you're gigging, these are really portable and offer a lot of features and a lot of bang for the size and the buck as well. But from there, that's where the similarities end. These 3 amps have very different features and will appeal to different kinds of players. Justin is going to take us through the features of the 3 amplifiers, and what do I get to do? I get to play with them. All right, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump in and check out our 3 Lunchbox amplifiers.
Hey Dan, Justin from Long and McQuade here. Excited to be doing another video with you. So today I've rounded up a few guitar amplifiers for you that take the Lunchbox amp concept and move it further by adding features not typically seen in Lunchbox amps of this size.
Oh, sorry, just feeling a little patriotic there. For those of you who don't know, this Lonely Rocker is Canadian, and so are REVV amps. Nice to have a little Canadian content on this show. Hey, we got the largest Canadian music instrument retailer and a really killer Canadian manufacturer of killer guitar amps all in one show. I'm really excited about this. D20, very interesting entry in this lineup. For those of you who know REVV amps, they're no stranger to high gain. But this amp is kind of the opposite. It's a lower gain amp with some really interesting features. There is a high gain version of this amplifier known as the G20. I'm actually hoping to get my hands on one of them at some time in the not too distant future. But this is a really solid amplifier with some really killer features. Let's check it out.
I feel like people really need to know about this. This is a really cool Lunchbox amp. It's got only a single channel, so bass, middle, treble, simple 3-band EQ. It has a pull boost on the gain control. It's not a terribly gainy amp. You're not going to get a lot of distortion out of it, which is really interesting and I think really cool. It's marketed, I guess, as a bit of a pedal platform. I mean, for me, I tend to prefer slightly cleaner amps that you can then just push with a distortion and a fuzz and everything, so that you have the character of the amp, sort of very mild, light overdrive, and then you just kick it over the edge with some sort of drive. The real star of the show with the REVV D20, though, is the partnership with 2 Notes Audio. Again, going back to your captor there, Dan. This has the 2 Notes captor functionality built into it, which is super awesome. It can store up to 6 presets for the wall of sound. You can upload those via USB into the back of this. Now, keep in mind, this is a tube amp. This is not a digital amp in the purest sense of the word. This is fully tube, and it has a USB port. It has the MIDI functionality and all that other stuff, which we'll get to in a second. But you can program the wall of sound IRs the way you want it in your computer. You can upload it into a particular slot on the front panel here, and that will be applied to the line out, and it will also be applied to the headphone out. Everybody asks me, why don't tube amps have headphone outputs? And really, I think that was the starting point for the REVV D20, was to put a headphone output on a tube amp, but also has the flexible cabinet emulation that the Two Notes software provides. So very, very cool. I did touch on the fact that it has a MIDI port on the back. That makes the wall of sound presets assignable via MIDI, so you can switch that. If you have like a MIDI switching rig and you want to get like a different tone, you sort of step on your preset, all your MIDI pedals will change, something like the Chase Bliss stuff that we looked at earlier. Also, the cabinet emulation can change. You don't even need to hook it up to a cabinet. You can just practice with it with the headphone out. You can record straight to your desk. Again, super, super flexible for gigging and especially for recording.
Next, we've got the Grandmeister Deluxe 40 from Hughes Kettner. This little amp has got 40 watts and is packed full of features. Let's check it out.
So the next one we're going to talk about is the Hughes Kettner Deluxe 40. It's an all-tube amp, it's 40 watts. It has 4 channels in it, believe it or not. Clean, crunch, lead, and ultra, so 4 different stages of gain. But it also has a digital effects engine built into it, which is super, super cool for a full tube amp like this. What is interesting about the front panel is that you have bass, middle, treble, you have reverb, you have volume and gain, and then you have this sort of master channel select over here. So what's going on is that you would select the channel, you would tweak it the way you want it, and then you would basically hit a save button, which is, again, kind of a foreign concept on an amp. But what it's doing is it will save the position of the knobs into this channel slot that you've currently selected. And then when you switch away, then you can tweak that channel however you like, save that, and then keep going like that. And so basically it's saving you presets for each channel inside the amp so that when you fire it up, it doesn't matter which way the knobs are pointing, it's going to remember where you set everything the first time when you hit that save button. The other cool thing about this amp is the built-in effects engine. Really nice quality effects. The other nice thing that I want to touch on is that this has Hughes Kettner's Red Box recording solution built into it. So it's similar to what Two Notes is doing with the Captor products and its wall of sound plugin, but it's done analog. So there's a couple of different cabinet models, a couple of different sounds that you can get out of it, but it's all done with an analog circuit, and then it has an XLR out. So you can even record this in your studio just using a mic cable directly to your interface or your desk. So again, another very, very, very flexible amp.
Ready to boogie? Well, I've got a Mesa Boogie. Don't let the size of this thing fool you. This thing packs a lot of punch. Let's check it out.
Basically think of this as a shrunk down version of the mighty Mark V Mesa Boogie that they put out recently. It has 2 channels, it has the 5-band graphic EQ, It has the variable wattage switch per channel. It has all sorts of different flavors like gain structures and EQ settings built right into it. It has spring reverb, if you can believe that, in something so tiny. It is 25 watts. I think it runs on EL84s, which is kind of neat. You wouldn't really think of that as like a Mesa Boogie 2, but they made it work. Very, very, very cool amp because it gives you all the tone and all the flavor of the Mesa Boogie products in such a small little lunchbox format. So the appeal of the Mark V is that it gives you access to all the Mesa Boogie flavors sort of down through their history. They have the Mark II flavor, the Mark IV flavor. These are just basically referencing their earlier designs of their amps from back in the 90s and then back even probably to the 80s. So again, these switches up here at the front of each channel will give you different flavors of gain, but also it will flavor, I guess, a bit of the EQ as well, which then you can modify with your treble, middle, and bass. The nice thing is it has separate treble, middle, bass, and presence for each channel, and each channel has a master volume relative, so you can balance each channel relative to each other. The 5-band EQ is channel assignable, so if you want to get that, classic Mesa Boogie sort of dipped mid sound, you absolutely can, and assign it to one channel or the other channel, or have it foot switchable, which is super cool. The other nice feature that Mesa Boogie is starting to build into a lot of their amps is variable wattage per channel. So variable wattage is nothing new. Most people are playing in smaller clubs or recording at home like you are, and you don't need this 25 or 50 or 100 watt monster all the time necessarily. Maybe you want something lower wattage. There's really two types of distortion. There's preamp distortion and there's power amp distortion. Traditionally in Mesa Boogies, you got all your distortion from the preamp, right? That was getting you all your grind and your crunch. If you are putting the clean channel at say 10 watts, you can actually turn that master volume up a bit more than you would at the 25 watt setting. And what that does is it will drive the output tubes more and give you, again, a different flavor of distortion. So very, very flexible gigging tool, but also a very good recording tool in that you can sort of gain stage a little bit how much preamp distortion you want relative to power amp distortion on a per channel basis. Very cool.
By the way, I just wanted to mention that the Mark V 25 has a built-in DI cab clone, so that gives you a direct record option as well. The circuitry is analog, and you've got two options on the back. You've got open back, and you've got a closed back. You just plug in straight into your computer, and you're good to record. Let's take a listen to it.
There we have it, 3 great options for full-featured Lunchbox amps. And as always, Dan, I'm curious to hear what you think.
So what do I think? I think I had a blast. That's what I think. These are 3 really great amplifiers. Don't let their small frame fool you. There's a lot of punch in all of these amplifiers. Little confession, and those with a keen ear you probably noticed, is that I double tracked all of these amps. Big is not big enough. I wanted to go bigger. Anyways, let's start with the Mesa Boogie. Super high gain amplifier. A lot of balls in a small frame. 2 channels, a lot of tone shaping options. I cheated a little bit. I wanted to know what it sounded like to run a boost and an overdrive into a already high gain amplifier. You heard the results. Killer, full, fat sounding amplifier. Honestly, it's fighting above its weight, absolutely. If you're into a boogie flavor, definitely you've got it in a small frame. Worth checking out. The D20 from REVV, you know what? It's not a high gain amp compared to the other two, but it definitely held its own. The natural breakup in this amp is beautiful. I really, really loved it. Also double tracked it with the other two, so I went with the natural gain that the amp provides on one track, and then I pushed it for the second track where I ran an overdrive and a boost in it as well. This thing receives pedals like a champ. Plus the baked in 2 notes technology, you have access to unlimited IRs through the wall of sound and the torpedo remote. You can save 6 of them on the amp, so that gives you a lot of versatility in one session, but easy to swap out as you require. Really great little amplifier. And the Hughes Kettner, I gotta say, it surprised me. It was the last one that I plugged in, and man, this amp has got a lot of balls on its own. I think the advantage of this amp is if you're really looking for an integrated solution, you've got the onboard effects, but bottom line, it's just a really great amplifier. And much like the other two, a good recording tool as well. All 3 of them have the DI technology. You don't need speaker cabs. It's a really great way to have tube tones in your recording and not having to mess around with microphones and cabinets and sacrifice nothing whatsoever. Well, there you have it. I want to thank Justin once again for his input. The guy really knows his stuff, and I really appreciate the insight he provides for you guys, and hopefully you found that interesting. Definitely want to thank Long and McQuade once again. They've been super supportive of this channel. I really appreciate them supplying the gear so I can share it with you guys. Definitely check them out at long-mcquade.com for all of your musical instrument needs. And for those of you, if you're new to this channel, I hope I've earned a subscribe. I've got a lot of videos on this channel revolving around this home studio geared to the home recording musician and the home studio enthusiast, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and come along for the ride. If you really want to support this channel, I am on Patreon. Links to everything I've discussed are in the description below. And above all else, I hope to see you again in another video. As always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And please like, subscribe, and ring that bell to stay up to date. Remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll. There are a lot of great musical projects you can do by yourself, right from your own home. I hope to see you again next time.